Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett. We are presented by the Grid Network. And I'm telling you, the Red Sox are just a PR disaster every single year. I come here, I'm excited for the season, and then they say something that just riles me up because they are quoting machines. They can't help themselves. Again, the Red Sox are a PR nightmare or disaster, however you want to call it. And that's where we're going to start off tonight. We got to start off talking about the Red Sox because Sam Kennedy, Tom Werner, basically anybody above Alex Cora, Breslow, Kennedy, Warner, they don't know what to do, how to talk. And whenever they do, they speak their mind, which turns into a disaster, which guys like me love to harp on. It's the same story, different day. Not to mention that just the other day, it has been 6 full years since John Henry has said a freaking word to the media. No public questions, no press conferences, nothing. The dude is a ghost. Why? Because he knows that we know he doesn't give a damn. He never did. Or I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. Ever since he won the fourth, and you could argue maybe it was a couple of years before that. Ever since, though, that fourth World Series, he thought his legacy was in the bag. He thought that he could do whatever he wanted now. He could turn his attention to other he could turn his attention to other sports ventures, which he has. Liverpool, Roush Fenway Racing, buying the Pittsburgh Penguins and then selling them, trying to get a basketball team in Vegas. I mean, you name it, he's doing it, which is why the Fenway Sports Group is the third richest sports conglomerate in the world. So, yeah. But it's just, I find it ridiculous that the majority owner, the man who changed, or not even changed, put Fenway as his company's first word, right? The Fenway Sports Group. Whenever you hear that, Fenway Sports Group, it's automatically Red Sox, Fenway Park, all of that. And yet he treats the Red Sox like they're bottom feeders, like they don't matter. And it's like, of course we matter. But yet, where is he? Where are you, John? Come on. You're more than welcome to come on the show and talk to me. I mean, it's not like I'm going to give you hard questions to answer, like, why aren't you spending? So, I'm such a nice guy. No, I am. Come on. But whereas John, I don't want to say has it right by not speaking to the media, by going 6 years without saying a freaking word to us, unless it's through backhanded channels, like it's a sit-down interview with a foreign, news company, news organization. He'll do, it wasn't even actually a sit-down interview. It was an email interview. That was his, the last time he spoke to the media. But as much as he is doing the right thing by not getting his words twisted and dissected, the rest of his cohorts desperately need public relations help. I don't understand how a public relations guy has not either, one, been hired, or two, does not prepare Sam Kennedy and Tom Werner for questions like, why did you let Alex Bregman walk? Why did you not give him the no trade clause like he asked? Why did you bring Alex Bregman in, then trade Devers, only to let Bregman walk that following year? Why did you trade Devers in the first place? Simple questions like that. How have Tom Werner, Sam Kennedy, and Craig Breslow not been prepped to answer those freaking questions. Right? And this is kind of where it all starts. Sam Kennedy, every single year, he just talks such a big game. And then all of a sudden, he kowtows. It's crazy, right? So listening to Sam Kennedy, this is where the whole kind of hoopla happened. Here we are, spring training is starting up, and again, Sam Kennedy's asked about Alex Bregman. He gives the media the simple runaround, and then, seriously, that didn't last long. I don't know what just happened there, but of course, trying to pair up the phone and the TV, like people say, "Oh, technology, it's made life so much easier." I very much beg to differ. It has made life extremely more complicated. But getting back to my point, when Sam Kennedy was asked about Alex Bregman, about the fact that, hey, why didn't you sign him? He gives the media the nice little runaround, like, oh, we would have liked to have had him back, but hey, blah, 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 blah. He's a great guy, great family man. And, sorry, I got an itch in my nose. Don't worry, easy. But, and then somebody followed up with, well, why didn't you give him the no trade clause? Is that a team ordered, thing where you don't give out no trade clauses? And the infamous words were this.
The no trade clause thing. Is that organizational policy that you don't give out full or partial no trade?
No, look, if Alex Bregman wanted to be here, ultimately he'd be here.
If Alex Bregman wanted to be here, ultimately he'd be here. In other words, it's not our fault, guys. It's not our fault that a superstar like Alex Bregman, who is 32 years old, is asking for a reasonable request by saying, yes, I will take your $165 million deal, which is $10 million less than what the Cubs are offering me, but I need a no trade clause. Not to mention the fact, too, that with the payment deferrals, it would have actually ended up being $28 million less. $28 million less. So it's not the 10, it's even less. So Sam Kennedy and the Red Sox are like, no, we don't want to give you the no trade clause because we want to trade you away whenever we see fit. Whenever there's a contract that we don't like, we're going to trade it away, i.e. Rafi Devers. I've been saying that since day one, since the minute they trade him. It wasn't hard to see that it had nothing to do with his locker room presence. It had everything to do with that $300+ million contract. So, once again, the Red Sox are blaming the player for not re-signing with the team because we're the mighty, mighty Red Sox, and we have a brand that is so popular. Who doesn't want to play for us? We're so historic. We're so great. This is the Boston Red Sox, baby. It is an honor to wear that jersey, and wear that logo across your chest. What an arrogant thing way to think about this. That is something I do not understand. Yes, it is an honor to wear the Red Sox name across your chest. It's also an honor to wear the Tampa Bay Rays across your chest. Oakland Athletics, Chicago White Sox, New York Yankees, LA Dodgers. It is an honor to wear any MLB logo across your chest because you've made it to the show. That's what it's talking about. And yes, as much as I want to sit here and go back to the days of Veritek stuffing his glove in A-Rod's face saying, I hate the Yankees suck. We don't live in those days. The New York-Boston rivalry is not what it was. We're not in 2002, 2003, 2004. Okay, this is 2026. And for somebody like Bregman, you're telling the media just off the cuff, not even thinking that, hey, it's his fault. Because if he wanted to be here, he would have accepted any deal we put in front of him. God, I couldn't believe it when I saw that. When I saw that and I heard that line, I was just blown away. And then the next day on the 310 to Left podcast, hi Eden, my little golden, on the 310 to Left podcast, Sam Kennedy now tries to walk that back, right? Because he realized in less than 24 hours, crap, I said something I should have, and now I got to walk it back. And here's what he said talking to Tom Caron and Lou Merlone. Take a listen.
And sometimes I get myself in trouble by saying too much. Then I get myself in trouble by not saying enough. So I think with Alex Bregman, I'll just leave it at huge gratitude for what he meant to this organization. He's an awesome guy. We loved having him in that clubhouse. Reagan and the family were terrific. Got to know his dad, who's I think running for governor of New Mexico. It's a great family. He is an all-world baseball guy, and loved having him.
That opening line, I get myself in trouble for saying too much, and I get myself in trouble for not saying enough. No, Sam, if you just listened to your public relations manager when they walked you through these comments, or at least should have walked you through how to answer that freaking question, because the whole baseball world knows what happened between the Red Sox and Alex Bregman. Whether it was, leaked out from your side or Bregman's side, it doesn't matter. We all know what you offered, and we all know the fact that you didn't give him the no-trade clause, which was a major, major sticking point in the negotiations. Okay? And so the fact that he's like, oh, I get in trouble for saying too much and then not enough, and essentially blaming us now. So you're not taking any accountability with this. You're blaming us, the media, who, I don't know, are taking your words verbatim and just saying, wow, I can't believe this is how you think. I can't believe you're going to treat an ex-player like this. What world are we living in? You're going to then blame us because you get in trouble for saying too much. But then you get in trouble for not saying enough. Sam, if you literally just stuck to the script and said no trade clauses we don't have a policy on that. We're not going to talk about no trade clauses. Ultimately, Bregman's a great player. He's a great guy. Would have loved to have him back. It just, unfortunately, it didn't work out between us. Fine. You're not going to get in trouble for saying that because it's right down the middle. You're going to say, hey, would have loved to have him back. Unfortunately, our terms didn't meet his terms, and his terms didn't meet our terms. So he went with another team. Is it that hard? Is it that hard? And so it's that's what kills me. That's what kills me. That he's just so it's never their fault. It's never the Red Sox fault when it comes to these situations, right? Because then obviously the fact that Rafael Devers is still coming up just goes to show how much they screwed the pooch with this. They lied about bringing Devers in. They lied about bringing Bregman in. Then they bring Bregman in, pisses Devers off, force Devers to throw his glove away and to only focus on hitting. Then a month into the season, our starting first baseman, who is already injury prone, mind you, gets injured, done for the year, blew out his knee. And now you're telling your superstar player, hey, we need you out in the field. Go play the field. And the superstar player, to his credit, was like, nah, not gonna do that. You know, like I don't have to do that. You forced me to throw my glove away. And why should I? Why should I help you out when you've just jerked me around all off season? You know? So when asked about Devers, when asked about Rafi Devers, Sam Kennedy had a few words. And here's one of his lines about Devers, which again, not terrible, but just interesting. Take a listen.
Well, you can't replace someone like Rafi. He's just, as an individual, exceptional hitter, and so we got to find other ways.
You can't replace somebody like Rafi. You can't replace somebody like Devers. Well, we've been talking all offseason about how to get a power bat. Craig Breslow himself said we needed to get a power bat for the lineup. And you had Schwarber, you had Alonso. Hell, if you really wanted to just go down the barrel, go down to the bottom of the barrel, you had Eugenio Suarez, who had over 40 home runs last year. He's a cheaper man Devers because he, just like Devers, can't field. But at least you would have, gotten the power bat. But you were just so hell-bent against it, you didn't even bother. You didn't even bother. And then while the whole time when you traded Devers, right after he beat up on the Yankees, which, shocker, that's what he does. He was a Yankee killer, which is something that we need. You traded him, and then you blamed it not because of, your bad communication, the fact that you jerked him around trying to get him off the third to play DH. Then you didn't even bother trying to get this guy into working with him at first base, just to then when your injury prone player gets hurt and is done for the year, that's when you say, oh, hey, go pick up a glove and go play. So here's more on Kennedy talking about him sucking, or the miscommunication between the team and him.
In the Rafi situation, I think we could have handled things better from a communication perspective. I guess, if I look back, put ourselves in that time period, we thought we had, but obviously we hadn't. And so there was a breakdown in communication. And so we dealt with what happened beyond that. It was probably one of the toughest decisions we've had to make as an organization in 24 years at the time of being here. And it was really hard and difficult, but we made the decision that we made, and we move on. And in this,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that he finally says that we didn't communicate properly enough. And then you have Tom Werner just adding more fuel to the fire when he says, quote, it was a discouraging episode, end quote. And then he follows that up, literally the 2 lines after this, quote, just pick up a glove, end quote. If you say you can't replace somebody like Rafael Devers, I know I brought up a couple of the free agents that just happened, but we've gone through free agency. We've gone through the rest of the season. We've dealt with the fallout that nobody from the Devers trade is currently on this roster. Everybody is gone. If you can't replace somebody like Rafael Devers, which is your line verbatim, Sam, then why did you trade him? I still can't get over this. And listen, I know why. I said it from day one. It was all about the money. It was all about the money. Why do you think they got such a crappy return in the end? Is because that was the only way the Giants were going to eat the money. Instead of getting Bryce Eldridge, who would have been perfect, he would have dealt with your problem at first base. He could have been your long-term solution at first base. Well, that just means you're going to have to eat a couple $100 million, or not a couple hundred, tens of millions of dollars on Rafi's contract. Oh, well, we can't do that. We gotta make sure that, we get a bunch of bums like we did with Mookie Betts. Yes, Alex Verdugo was a bum. I know it breaks a lot of Red Sox fans' hearts hearing people say that, but yes, Alex Verdugo, overrated. He sucked. He was a bum. And just like Rafael Devers' trade, Jordan Hicks was a bum. An over 6.9 ERA here in his time in Boston. We won 89 games last year. We would have been in the 90s had Jordan Hicks never worn a Red Sox uniform. And I'm not even saying we traded Devers. We didn't trade Devers. No. I'm just saying if Jordan Hicks never wore a Red Sox uniform, we would have won over 90 games because he screwed up. He blew several of those potential wins, especially the one out in Minnesota. So, again, aren't you guys supposed to keep players like him on the roster? And for those of you who want to say, well, look at what he did after the season. Look at what he did after the trade. He wasn't as good. He sucked. This, that, and the other. It's because there were no hints about Devers getting traded at all. Yes, he put up a stink. Yes, he forced John Henry to fly out to Kansas City to confront Devers one-on-one to say, listen, yes, I know Craig Breslow is a robot. That's why I hired him. So either you deal with it or you're going to get traded. And apparently he took the latter. I'm just that is all speculation. Otherwise, it's this idea that people want to rewrite the Devers story, rewrite it completely. If Devers goes out this year and doesn't do as well, then okay, you might actually have a case that look at what he did after us, right? Otherwise, up to that point, Devers was leading the team in home runs. He was mashing balls. He was on a hitting streak when we traded him on Father's Day. But then, again, lest we forget, Devers was willing to play first base if Breslow committed to the long-term aspect of Devers playing first. Yes, I know a lot of the headlines were saying that Devers wasn't willing to play, wasn't going to do it, blah, blah, blah. It's because of that. And my source, Pete Abraham, he talked about it in June 17th. Okay? And so Pete Abraham said Devers was willing to play first, but that had to be part of the move. It had to be a long-term focus with that. Because Devers, while he might not have been the best defenseman, was committed to playing defense. And then Breslow said no. Casas was already hurt. And obviously, as we all know, the rest is history. So, again, I look at this and I think to myself, do these guys, to Sam Kennedy, Craig Breslow, Tom Warner, and to some degree John Henry, do they think that we're a stupid fan base for saying these things? Or do they think we're a stupid fan base and just buy up everything they say? And that the only reason why they have to walk stuff back is because the meanies there over at 98.5, the Sports Hub, they're so mean. They don't like us. They're not EEI. And again, EEI, I'm not dissing EEI with this. That's not my intention at all. It's just that, Nesson and all that. I like EEI. I think EEI is great. I truly do. But, it's like they either think we're stupid or they just don't care. Ultimately, that's my point, is that the Red Sox ownership thinks that they don't have to take accountability at all, which is crazy to me. How can you sit there and just go through all of this and be like, yeah, it's not our fault. It's never our fault. What? Why? How? It bothers me. And we are not a dumb fan base. If anything, we're too smart. We're smarter than them. Hey, we're smarter than them. And so, it's those. And then ultimately, I look at this and I think to myself, this is why I have such a problem with statisticians, with nerds. And I'm not, and again, say what you want with that, but they don't know how to communicate. And it's clear as day. When we were talking at the last trade deadline, there was Bob Nightingale talked about how teams hate dealing with Craig Breslow because he's not a former ball player. Personality-wise, he's a nerd. Okay? Yes, I know he played ball. That's not my point. Otherwise, his personality screams nerd! Thank you. It took me a minute there. But that's what his personality screams of. And when Bob Nightingale is talking about how teams hate dealing with Craig Breslow, they probably see his incoming call and it's like, oh, God, do I really have to? And why do you think our deals, multiple deals we've had, have been with the Cardinals? Because Kyan Bloom and Craig Breslow speak the same language. Whereas Dave Dombrowski and Craig Breslow are polar opposites. They don't speak the same language. And I guarantee you, Dave Dombrowski would fleece Craig Breslow if they ever made a deal. But it's all about relationship management. And that's what this team doesn't do. From top to bottom. Maybe Cora, not talking about Cora. I meant from Breslow to Henry. They don't know how to manage relationships with people. And it's clear that every single year, you're dealing with the same nonsense, the same bull crap. And I'm coming on here time and time again. You might even argue I enjoy crapping on the Red Sox because it gets me amped. It gets me excited, and to some degree, sure. It is fun but at the same time, it's a running story. It's old. It's the same story, different day. It's just another spring training where here I am, not talking about the team, not talking about the season, just going through and picking apart quotes because these idiots don't know how to deal with the media. Don't have a PR director. If you want to shut me up, hire me as your PR guy. It'll take me 30 seconds to craft words for you to answer these important questions. So that way this never happens again. I can't be bought. So I'm like, what are we doing? Why is it that this has to be the way? And the whole relationship management aspect of this is what pisses me off. You want to talk about, again, to use Devers as an example, you want to talk about a $350, a $350 million man, and to you guys out there who are like, yeah, he should have picked up the glove. He's getting paid all that money. It's not hard to go across the diamond, this, that, and the other. Fine. I'll concede that. But don't you think it's fair that your employer actually keeps you updated with everything that they're doing, and they're not trying to, undermine you? And that, don't you think it's fair that your employer should tell you straight up, hey, we're thinking about bringing this guy in, and we might want him to play third base over you. Would you mind going to play DH? Or would you mind even working on being a first baseman? Just to give you something to do. I understand you want to play the field. That's great. Why don't we work on being, why don't we work on you practicing first base? You're going to play most of the year at DH, but then later in the year, next year, you could be our full-time first baseman. Does that sound all right with you? Again, it's a two-way street. That's what the relationship aspect of this team doesn't comprehend. Or this team doesn't comprehend the relationship aspect of this game. Just because you're paying them all that money, what, you get to keep them in the dock? No. That's not how this works. If anything, you should be going to him and making him your guy. Just because you want to then come out and say, he's getting paid all that money, he should have been our leader, this, that, and the other. Well, if you didn't treat him like a leader, maybe that's why he didn't step up in the first place. You ever think of that? Not to mention the fact that playing the opposite end of the diamond is a totally different position, especially for a player who's never played first base in his life. These are the questions that you need to be asking the team. And that's why coming on here, having Sam Kennedy, say this garbage over and over again. Not to mention, where's that $232 million you saved? Oh, I know where. It is, you re-signed Roman Anthony. You then went out and got Ranger Suarez. You then got Sonny Gray. And, now you're spending over $260 million. Wait, did you even spend that 232? Not to mention, that's right, the other $80 million that you saved from Alex Bregman? And Sam's going to spin it. He's going to be like, we spent it in many, 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 many different ways, which is actually kind of what he said. But it's just the same story, different day. And yeah, you might claim like, hey, you enjoy doing this. You enjoy ragging on the team. Okay, maybe. But at the same time, they give me this stuff. What else am I supposed to say? You know what, Sam? You're right. If Bregman wanted to be here, he'd be here. Yeah, Red Sox. That's right. No, because I'm a realist. Sorry if that breaks your heart. Like, oh my gosh. All right. So, yeah, now it's spring training when I'm bitching about the Red Sox the way I am. So, all right, moving on to the Boston Celtics. We're going to talk. All right. I'm going to make this real quick, real easy, because what else is new when we're talking about NBA All-Star Weekend, arguably the worst All-Star Weekend in history? Just starting off with the dunk contest, I didn't even watch it live. I watched it on YouTube because I was like, this is ridiculous. And sure enough, it was. The guy who won just did a simple dunk. Like literally stuck his arm up and just dunked the ball in. Keyshawn Johnson, I think is his name. And could that dude dance anymore? You did nothing special, bro. You sucked. And yet you still won because I don't even know why you won. It's not like anybody else was any better, honestly. And also, too, outside of the dunkers and the dunks, which were all awful, like nothing innovative, nothing exciting, nothing fun about it. Shame on the judges. Rick Barry, Dominique Wilkins, Dr. J, Dwight Howard. Where is your integrity? Where's your integrity? I understand they adjusted the scoring system to now be you give scores 1 through 50, which I think is dumb. Like, go back to 1 through 10, first and foremost. But secondly, the lowest score given was a 40. And it wasn't even for the simple dunk that I just ragged on. Okay? It was, where's the difficulty? Where's the, dude, you did nothing special outside of put the ball in the net. 1, 10, 15 tops. And you know, not only the judges, but the commentators, Reggie Miller, you know, just going off. Be like, oh, look at that. And I'm sorry. Have some decency. Have some integrity, will you? So that's my dunk contest rant because, again, what else am I going to say? We talk about the same thing every year, you know? And then All-Star Game. They did 2 United States teams and 1 world team. And then the finals were both United States teams squaring off. Trash. There were still plenty of lanes left. There were still plenty of wide open threes, half-ass attempts at defending. Sure, you had a couple real effort plays, but a couple tops. Again, not anything worth, you know, writing home about. It's not like the whole attitude shifted. The whole attitude changed. Not at all. They still go out there. They still half-ass it. They still have no respect for the All-Star Game. The fact that you're surrounded by the greatest talent all squaring off at one another. 20 years ago and further back than that, they cared. They really cared about it. And now I'm being told, oh, well, it's not, they don't have, it's not, well, what was it? You know, they're not being incentivized enough now. That's why they still play like trash. That's why they're still half-assing it. Why should they put their bodies on the line? You're playing basketball. This isn't hockey. This isn't football. It's basketball. You're putting bodies on the line. Okay? Listen, I love the sport. The sport of basketball is so much fun and can be played, you know, with and can be really an entertaining sport. But with how the NBA has just shifted basically since 2010 and on, it really is tough to watch. And, you know, again, I sit here and I say stuff that we all know. NBA All-Star Weekend sucks. The Pro Bowl sucks. But, again, it wasn't that long ago when players actually tried and players actually gave a damn. You know? And to hear the players in the NBA especially complain about how long the season is and that it's an 82-game season, you know, and that they play so much and whatever. Well, you know what? NHL players play the exact same schedule. They play 82 games. They're on solid ice. They're skating around in razor sharp blades on their feet. And they have weapons, i.e. sticks. Yet, not a single one of them has complained about playing 82 games. If anything, they'll do whatever they have to do to play. And that's why I will always come on here and say the NHL is a wildly better product than the NBA. While you have LeBron James getting carried off by his own teammate for cramps, you have Patrice Bergeron the same month playing with a punctured lung, broken ribs, a bruised sternum, and he's playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, dealing with all of that. Yeah, I'm really sick and tired of the NBA players thinking they have it so hot. Arguably, too, getting paid arguably the most per year of any athlete, professional athlete, too. And now you have this whole controversy with Jason Tatum, which, again, the start of the year, we're all like, if Jason Tatum could come back by March or April, that would be phenomenal. That would be unbelievable for an Achilles tear. Yet, 2 weeks ago, he comes out on the Ryan Clark podcast, which credit to him because he did it right during the Patriots Super Bowl run, so it wasn't as highly covered as it could have been. But he comes out and says to Ryan Clark that he doesn't know if he is coming back, because he doesn't want to disrupt the flow that this team has played with. Here's a listen from Ryan Clark's The Pivot podcast.
If or when I do come back this season, they would have played 50 some odd games without me, right? So they have an identity this year or things that they've, felt that has clicked for them, and it's been successful, right? Third, second team in the East up to this point. So there is a thought in my head is how does that work, or how does that look, with me, integrating myself off an injury and 50, 60 games into a season.
He's worried about his return and how the team is going to accept him back. I mean, Jason's the best player on the team. And Jaylen is 1B. No disrespect to Jaylen Brown. But Tatum is the guy. This is Jason Tatum's team. And he's worried about how that's going to react and how the team is going to then play with him back in the lineup. And so that came out 2 weeks ago. Only for just recently it to be known that Jason Tatum has a documentary coming out about his return. Oh, baby. So is that it? Are you using that as, your platform to kind of say this stuff so you can then add the ebbs and flows of a documentary, your 5-part documentary, to say, hey, I was really kicking it. I got the surgery right away. Everything was going well. And then all of a sudden it gets to December and January, and I had a little bit of a setback. I don't know. I'm thinking about my teammates now, and they've played 50, 60 games without me. They're the number 2 seed, number 3 seed in the East. Man, is this really going to work out? Am I going to be a disruption where if I come back, then, maybe we start losing because I haven't played with these guys. They have a whole thing going. And then if I come in and I disrupt it and we lose, oh no, that sucks. And then what? The final is going to be like, but you know what? I'm going to get over that. I think it's our time. I'm going to come back because my Achilles feels great. Let's go, baby. Go Celtics. My question is, did he really believe what he said to Ryan Clark? Or was that for the piece? Was that for the documentary that was on a big podcast that everyone's going to be watching because he's on it? You know what I'm saying? So was it an act or not? Because while on the one hand, he's not wrong for thinking that, hey, they've been playing for, 50 to 60 games before I even play one. So they have a whole flow. They understand each other, where each other's going to be, and then I step in, and that could cause a little ruffle. That could cause, a few mistakes here and there. I might not be fully game ready, so that's going to slow things down just slightly. That's a valid thought. But to then sit there and say, well, I don't know if I want to come back because of that. It's like, Jason, you're the best player on the team. This is your team, dude. So go out there and make it your team. Go take the reins. Go show them why you're the best player, even at 85%. Now, of course, I want his Achilles to be 100% healthy. But even at 85% game strength, game ready, he's still one of the top players in the league. So that whole thing with Ryan Clark, was it for entertainment purposes or did he actually mean that? Crazy. Just play. Just go out there. Have fun. Play the game you love. Play the game you're getting paid a lot of effing money for. And you deserve it. But, man, it's crazy. Crazy what we're dealing with. Next, I got to talk about the Bruins. Going from one Causeway Street team to another. The Boston Bruins. So, right now, they got a break. We got the Winter Olympics going on. Quinn Hughes, ooh, baby, what a goal. What a freaking goal yesterday that was to beat Sweden. And it was so funny because with 5 minutes left in the game, you could just see Team USA play the hockey version of prevent defense. That everybody's back. They're just firing the puck down. They're not forcing the issue because ultimately they don't want to force the issue to a point that gives Sweden that opportunity to get a goal on a breakaway, a 2-on-1, or whatever. They don't want to cause a mistake in the offensive end that's going to screw them down to the defensive end. So in other words, let's just sit back. Let's just keep everything in front of us and have them play the next 5 minutes in their offensive zone, which is your defensive zone. And then what happens? Sweden ties it up. Shocker. Just like prevent defense, it doesn't work. Prevent defense only works when there's 5 seconds left on the clock. The other team is at their own 25, and they have to go 75 yards down to score. That's the only time prevent defense, 99 times out of 100, works. But when you're playing prevent defense for a minute and a half, that team's just going to go up and down the field on you every single time. But with this, they were able to score, and it was awesome. Then they get into overtime. Sweden had a couple of big-time chances, and then Quinn Hughes takes the puck, skates to the top of the slot, cuts back left, fires it, bam, goal. USA beats Sweden. Yes, thank you for that. Now we get to play Slovakia tomorrow. And then hopefully we beat Slovakia to play Canada and hopefully play Canada in the gold medal game because Canada nearly lost. So it was, they nearly lost to David Pasternak. But getting back to the Bruins here, the Bruins are in an interesting place right now because they're currently 4 points ahead of the number one team that's out of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So they hold the final wild card spot by 4 points. And I've been saying for the last 2 months, this team needs to sell at the deadline. It does. Because as great as it is, and as great as it could be, to still make the playoffs, especially with the fact that we have Toronto's number one overall pick, which is top 5 protected. Yeah, it's top 5 protected. And so if they get the 6th overall pick, thank you. Thank you, Maple Leafs. This is a situation where if we make the playoffs, great, that's gravy. Otherwise, we need to really focus on building for the long-term future. And while we do have some primary pieces, this season has felt a lot like what the Patriots just did. And that's not play an easy schedule because you play every single team at least twice in the NHL. But when reading this article by Fluto Shinzawa from The Athletic, he wrote an article called "What Will the Bruins Do at the NHL Trade Deadline? Buy, sell, or both?" And he brought out some interesting 5-on-5 numbers. And starting with the offensive stuff, right? And by the way, these numbers are interesting because as you're looking at these, I want you to ask yourself, is this sustainable? Is this sustainable? Okay? So starting with the offensive side of things, the Boston Bruins, I'm saying, broke the Brainiacs because they're currently playing out of their skates. The Bruins have 127 5-on-5 goals, which is tied for 7th in the NHL. Only 6 teams have more than them. They also have 294 high danger shots, which comes out to an expected goals for at 113.26, which ranks 26th in the NHL. So basically, they are scoring more often than what the numbers are predicting, which is why the Bruins broke the Nerds. And then you look at some unlikely heroes. Casey Middlestat, Morgan Geekie, who is absolutely having a tremendous season. And then Fraser Minton, the 21-year-old, who was part of the trade package for Carlo in Toronto. 5-on-5 shot percentage. Casey Middlestat is converting 23.81 of his shots. Geekie is converting 22.22 of his shots. And Fraser Minton is converting 16.13% of his shots, scoring at that rate. And so all of which are career highs for them. And as much as, I don't like to I don't look at numbers and say, we have to live and die by these numbers. They're a good reference point for me. So when I bash the Nerds, it's because they live and die by these numbers. Every decision they make is based off percentages and all that stuff, rather than actually look at the sport for the sport's sake and make decisions off of that. But again, you look at the expected goals for, it's 113. And yet we've scored 127 5-on-5 goals. So to me, you're kind of looking at that going, wait a minute. Is this sustainable? Are we going to come back from the Winter Olympics and the winter break and be fully, right back into rhythm and doing that? And then you look at the defensive side, the goalie side of things. In the same article, Fluto Shizawa breaks down that we've allowed 105 5-on-5 goals, which is 7th in the NHL. And yet the expected goals allowed is 130.58, which is a negative 25.58 goal allowed differential, which is 4th in the NHL. That's phenomenal. Having the expected goals allowed be so high, but you've only allowed this much, that's huge. That's great, at least 5-on-5 wise. And then you look at Swayman on 5-on-5. He's got a .926 save percentage, which is 9th in the NHL. And I got to make sure I read this right. A 15.85 goals saved above average, which is 3rd in the NHL, all of which is 5-on-5 specific. So I'm not talking about power play, penalty kill, power play, any of that. Just strictly 5-on-5, 4-on-4. So all of that is been done in 57 games. And as I asked you, is this sustainable? I don't know that it is. And I didn't need the numbers right there to tell me this, but I think it only adds to my point of I do believe that this team needs to sell. I do believe that they need to, look at the situations, look at the contracts that we have, look at the players like a Victor Arvidsson, like a Casey Middlestad, like an Andrew Peak, and say, what can we get for these guys? And can we also get a return where we're getting a young prospect who's got term, who can develop, or that is kind of borderline right there, kind of like a Morgan Geekie in a sense, because I don't know if Morgan's like playing out of his skates or if he's just, or if this is really him. But he's been phenomenal all season. Going him and Pasternak going back and forth for the most goals on the team. But as I said, I don't need those numbers to make my case. I could have just told you straight up that looking at the team, watching them play, they're a fun team. It's fun to watch. I think they do have a good product going right now. But I'm just not convinced that this is a team meant for a deep playoff run. And that's why I'm kind of like, I think we should sell. But then with Fluto Shizawa's article, it's like, hey, see? What did I tell you? And I'm like, okay. Because the trade deadline is March 6th. So with it being on March 6th, the players get back on the 23rd because the final day of the Winter Olympics is on the 22nd. And that's when the gold medal game is. So the Bruins have 4 games between the end of the Olympics and the trade deadline. When looking at that, is that going to be enough time for Don Sweeney to maybe adjust his point of view? Does he look at this team and say, yes, we should invest for the now, not only because we have the draft capital, and I wouldn't even say draft capital, the capital itself, but, hey, look at what we're doing. Look at how great we're playing. Look at the numbers I just laid out for you. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it yet. If we make the playoffs, which, again, I said we would. I said we would sneak in on the last day. We'd still make the playoffs, and I want to make the playoffs. But if I'm Don Sweeney and if I'm Cam Neely, who want to build a long-term successful team, I need to identify our core. And according to Fluto, the core is Pasta, McAvoy, and Swayman. Swayman's one of your core guys. If I could trade him tomorrow, I would. In a heartbeat. Absolute heartbeat. The fact that he let that goal in the Olympics from the red line there, what was that about? And I don't want to hear that, oh, it was too dark, he couldn't see. No, that's excuses for this guy. This guy had the idea that he would come in and beat Connor Hellebuck for the starting job. He said that right before the game started. That, hey, part of my job is to come in here and to beat Hellebuck for the starting gig. That's what I want to do. You did a hell of a job and nearly screwed us, dude. Not to mention that goal, but then even the goal was 6.7 seconds left in the second period. So instead of it being 4-2 entering the third, it was 4-3 entering the third, giving Denmark all that life. Which I was going back and forth with a buddy of mine who's a Panther fan. And I feel like he was kind of mad at me because I was screaming at my television, hey, get Swayman out of here. Put Hellebuck back in. Put Ottinger in. They're going to be better for you than this guy. We can't afford to lose this game. Not here, not now. And he's like, dude, like Swayman's a good goalie. Like, those weren't for him, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm just kind of like, it kind of got me thinking where, yes, I don't like, I shouldn't say that because I don't know. I don't like Swayman's game and kind of his attitude, I guess, going into it, because here's the thing. He wanted more money than $8.25 million. And going into that negotiation, again, he never started more than 45 games in a single season. Did he have a good playoff run when we lost to Florida in the second round? Yes, he did. And I was the first to admit that. I kept saying it on the show, like, Swayman's been playing great. Swayman's been playing great. That loss wasn't on him. He's been doing well. But the problem is, he held out for something that, in my opinion, he didn't earn. At least not yet. Because he was always the 1B. He was always the number 2 guy. Linus Ullmark was the number 1. And so then you go into last year's season, and he sucked. Oh, was he just horrendous. He was one of the worst goaltenders in the NHL last year. And that's not a hyperbole. So coming into this year, I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. Have there been games that he lost for the Bruins? Yes. Have there been a lot of games where he won? Obviously. Look at the number I just showed you. 15.85 goals saved above average. Okay? So he's been really playing well this year, at least 5-on-5. But there have been moments. There have been those 7 goals, 8 goal games that he gives up. And you're just sitting there going, what is going on, dude? You're playing here, but then all of a sudden you drop down here. And then with the Winter Olympics, you talk so much. You're talking all this trash. And then you go out there, you get your opportunity, and you crap your pants. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some brown stains on those pads after the game. It just, so it's almost like you can't back it up. And so listen, I do think a part of my thing with Swayman is his contract, because I still don't believe he is worth $8.25 million per season. He's not. And he's shown not to be. It sucks that we have another $3 million goalie in Corpusalo who is not that good. He's been better this year, but still not great. And when I see Fluto say that Swayman is one of his core guys, like that you want to build a team around, I'm sorry. I'll give you Pasternak, who's 29, McAvoy's 28, and Swayman's no trade clause kicks in at the start of next year. If I could trade him tomorrow for a bag of pucks, I would. And then tell goalie Bob, get the next guy ready. Get DiPietro ready. Get Corpusalo out of here. Get Swayman out of here. Get the money off the books because it's not invested well enough. And I told you, if I were Don Sweeney, I would have let Swayman go all the way to the restricted free agent signing day, which is either December 1st or December 2nd, where that would have been the last day Swayman could have signed his tender in order to play that season. And if he didn't, I'd be like, all right, see you later. Have a good season or have a good off season. And so I just look at it like as one of the core guys, I just don't see it. I don't. And if you think I'm wrong, comment down below. Tell me what your thoughts are. Is Swayman one of your core guys? Do you want him in Boston long term? Do you like the deal? Let me know. Otherwise, the last thing I do want to talk about is kind of football related and kind of my thoughts also kind of go with it, where the NFLPA won their injunction. The NFL won their injunction against the NFLPA over the annual report cards that actually got owners off their ass to go make improvements. The Patriots are about to have a brand new building that's going to have state-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art weight room, probably a room for families and all those things to help bolster their report cards, which I've talked ad nauseum. I mean, when you look at the report card that was released for the 2024 season, there were some better improvements, like the nutritionist, the strength coaches were a B. But a lot of areas, treatment of families went from an F- to a C+. So head coach, B- to a B+. But, when you look at the bottom there, it says ownership in 23, D+, ownership in 24, D. And listen, does it suck to know that your employees think this of you? Yeah, it does. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised that a lot of the owners who got these poor ratings felt like that. I mean, I don't blame them. What I do blame them for is the fact that they went out and then filed a lawsuit, an injunction, getting the NFLPA to stop these annual report cards rather than, I don't know, talk to the team, talk to the players and say, hey, can we work something out here? Can we, maybe you can keep these annual report cards, but do you have to release them publicly? Do you have to do this stuff? Or, can we get some leeway? How can we improve this? And if I were the player, I'd say, well, you can improve it by actually doing something about it. You make enough money from the TV deals alone that come the first day of the new year, new league year, that check hits your bank account, which covers everything from the contracts to the stadium to the maintenance. Everything is already covered just from the TV deals alone. Not to mention all the extra revenue from the stadium, from the parking lot, You name it. You know, like that is where they can go out of their way to assist and help. And when you're getting thrown under the bus, or when it's released publicly, when the public knows in what standing you're in and what the players think of the facilities and everything, yeah, I think it's a good way to get owners to do something about it. Robert Kraft has improved in 2 years, and he's finally going to get a brand new building for the guys for all that stuff, or at least most of it. And then you got the Cardinals. They're going out. They're trying to improve as well. It's just Woody Johnson, who's got a stick up his bum, who's the one who's at the forefront whining about this. And he got his way. Instead of actually being proactive and saying to yourself, you know what? You guys are right. I think this weight room, it needs work. The treatment of families, I could be better at that. The food, oh my gosh, the food. I'm so sorry. You guys actually, why am I charging you to have food? I'm already paying you all this money. It's crazy. Which is what the Cincinnati Bengals do, but it's one of those things where you're like, really? Do you not understand the optics that this is going to have, whether you won or lost the injunction? The optics look horrendous for the NFL owners. Horrendous. But yet, allegedly, these report cards are going to be no more. So, we'll see. We'll see. So, all right. Well, hey, listen, appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. Tell me what you think down below. We got a whole lot to talk about. Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins. Now that the Patriots season is over, we're going to still talk some Pats. We got draft season coming up. We got the combine in a couple of weeks, so that's always fun to talk about. But again, tell me what your thoughts are down below. You can reach me on any of the social media platforms, on Instagram at Boston Sports Summit, on X at BOS Sports Summit, and then over on YouTube, Boston Sports Summit. And then don't forget to check out the Grid Network as well. If I'm pointing, there we go. Check out the Grid Network on YouTube as well. A bunch of great content creators, and they are gracious for sponsoring the show. So thank you guys so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your night. Have a great weekend. And as always, God bless. Thank you.